Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of Live with Chris's World. It is Monday, April 15th, and I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. I got some time to put my feet up, relax a little bit, and it's always good to have a couple days off to chill. So on this Monday, I have an awesome guest. He's recurring on the show. He's been on the show a few times before. Our last episode in January was a big hit, so I'm very, very thankful for his time. I've got Clay Clark for you guys today. I'm going to bring him right on in here, and we're going to chat for about a half hour and talk about the current state of America. So, Clay, thank you very much for joining me this evening, man. How's it going?
Well, brother, I tell you what, I wish that there were more wins or positive news to report, but there is just news to report. And so I'm here happy to discuss it with you.
Likewise, man. It's great to have you on again, and I hear you. There's a lot of news, a lot of stuff in the headlines. However, not all of it is good news. I want to start today. I've been to a couple of your events, the Reawaken America tour, and they have a very religious tone to them. You get to meet a lot of awesome patriots and great Christians there. So I thought you'd be a great person to ask this question to. I'm 27 years old. What I'm seeing in my age group, and even kids younger than myself, I wouldn't consider myself a kid, but people younger than myself, that 18 to 23 and then up a little bit, there's a disconnect in regards to the morality that they live their life by. Morals, the faith, religion is what I'm getting at here. What do you see today in the youth and how they're handling religion? And are you seeing maybe a plateau or even this downward slope, and how seriously they're taking religion and faith?
Well, you know, my oldest daughter's 20. My son is 17. I have another daughter who's 15. I've got daughters that are 13, you know, so I feel like I sort of live with or am around younger people. And then I have clients. So just give a little context here for you. If your listeners go to thrivetimeshow.com and they look at my clients I work with 160 brands, and most of my business owners I work with range between the ages of 20 and about 55. So I work with a lot of business owners that are 25, 27, 30, that kind of thing. And what I find, Chris, is that the people that I am around that are under the age of 30, they encounter problems during their day that I don't encounter and that I will never encounter. And they're based upon morally bankrupt decisions. So let me just give an example today. Have a young lady in my office, one of my companies, who's a sharp lady, dresses sharp, shows up on time, does a good job. Yes, sir. That kind of thing. And, you know, she just found out that she's pregnant and she doesn't quite know who the dad is. You know, so what do you do with that? You know, so yeah. I'm a boss. So my initial response is I'm pro-life. I believe that abortion is sacrifice of a baby to Baal, aka murder. But it's like, wait a minute now. You're having a baby, okay, and you don't know who the dad is. Okay, so you got that. Then I got another client. This is the last last week, okay? Another client of mine, his daughter has a baby, doesn't quite know who the father is. So you got two of that same conversation going on. And I would have, I've been self-employed since I was 16, you know, so I've been self-employed now for 27 years. So this was not normal when my first 10 years in business. So from 1999 to 2009, you'd hear of women that got pregnant outside of the boundaries of marriage. Not a lot, but sometimes.
Right.
But in terms of not knowing who the father is, that's a different level of sexual promiscuity. I mean, that just takes it to a whole different level.
Yeah, that is a different ball game. I mean, and not even to get into the level of detail that we could get into, but when you have that many sexual partners, I mean, and I think that's kind of what we're getting at here. Yeah. There's this lack of seriousness in moral obligation. I think maybe we could sum it up to. Yeah. And you have the the party of Satan pushing the glorification of having multiple partners, going both ways. These are things that are, very strictly laid out in the Bible. I mean, man shall not love man. I mean, that's in the Bible. Correct
Right.
me if I'm wrong. So I say this a lot on my show, and I have a guy who I stream with a lot, and we work together, a great patriot named Boiling Point Live, and something we touched on last week. I just want to see if you would agree with this statement. It's very tough to be a Christian and a Democrat right now with the way that party has gone. And I'll sum it up to just 2 or 3 bullet points. You look at the transgender / LGBTQ movement, abortion, and just the emphasis on removing religion in the church from our day-to-day lives as a whole. What do you think about that statement? Am I far-fetched when I say, oh no, if you're a Democrat, how can you possibly be a Christian right now? The only way you could be is if you were ill-informed politically. But if you're somebody who is, hey man, I know day-to-day legislation, what's being proposed, what's being passed, ask me about anyone or anything. If you're one of those people and you're like, at the same time, I'm a Christian and a Democrat, you've got to be fucking crazy. Or uninformed.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that. Now, let me just give an example of how far left the Democrat Party is right now. We have an employee today in one of my companies, true story, who was high to work last week, high. And in her mind, it's a medical issue. Next day, she's drunk. So I'm trying to, this is a real thing. So on my companies, there's hundreds of employees between all the things I'm involved in. And so the manager pulls me aside and says, hey, what should I tell this person? I said, tell me the situation. He says, well, she's high, but then the next day she was drunk. And I said, well, maybe averaged out. And he says, what do you want me to say to her? And I said, well, tell me the situation. Well, this person claims it's her medical right to take mind-altering drugs during the day because of her anxiety. So that's the justification. Now, in Oklahoma, we currently don't have a medical justification for being drunk yet. And this person is a very outspoken, far left person in the workplace. They talk about their left views. They talk about their pro-wokeism. You can pick up on it by the purple hair extensions. I mean, you can see it. You hear them talk about it too. But they also claim to be a Bible-believing churchgoer. And so I don't understand how you can. I don't understand what kind of mental gymnastics you're doing to be able to justify that. But my managers, can you imagine if you got hired today? You have a great job today, Chris. But imagine you got hired to work with me, and you said to me, Clay, hey, this person was high yesterday. They're drunk today. And when I mentioned the high thing, they go, absolutely. I have a medical condition. It's my right. When I brought up the fact that they were drunk, they said, well, I have a disease and I have to do that to come down off of my. And then when you talk to them about the religious beliefs, they claim to be pro-Christ, and therefore they claim that they are redeemed by the word of God. And how dare you judge them?
Yeah. That's and that's what it ultimately comes down to is a victim mentality, or at least maybe they don't go into it with a victim mentality, but when shit hits the fan and they know somebody's coming down on them due to behavior that wasn't good, they take that victim approach to get out of it. Clay, I wasn't going to bring this up, but since we're talking about this victim approach, did you see all the protests that were happening today?
I do know that various people were laying on bridges all across the country and bridges and roadways to stop all commerce and all transportation in favor of Gaza, is my understanding.
Yeah, so there was a guy, and I'm looking for the clip. Let me see if I could find it exactly.
True, was a great guy.
There was a guy who he gets out of his car, and he's not overly polite. He's slightly assertive, but of course he's waiting at the airport in a huge line of traffic because of these freaking protesters. And ultimately the protesters are now flipping the switch. Sir, calm down. Sir, calm down. But this guy's not getting that aggressive where he might hit somebody. Is his voice a little bit raised? Yeah, because he's late to a flight, because you're sitting in the road. That's going to make anybody who's a reasonable person unreasonable. I mean, that's literally written in law. Like, that's part when things, not to get off topic, but when acts happen that make a reasonable person unreasonable. But I mean, there you go. This guy's not being unreasonable at all. And these people flip the script and say, how dare you interrupt our protest? Meanwhile, this guy could have a wedding to get to, work to get to.
Right.
He could be, who knows what he has to get to. But how do you approach these types of situations with a level head?
Well, okay, what I do, and again, I go back to work, and that's where I prefer to think, because I run businesses, and that's just how I think. So in the book of James, if you read the book of James, everyone should read the book of James. The book of James is kind of a book about work ethic. Okay, it's about working, but it's about following God's laws. How about that? It's about taking faith and turning it into action. Book of James is a great book because it's the combination of faith with works. It's action. And so if you read the book of James, it talks about like let your yes be your yes. It says swear by no one. I'm paraphrasing, but you want to let your yes be your yes. Well, I work with people in my life that their word is their bond. That's who I hang out with. So what I do in my office, and when we wrap up today's interview, in about 45 minutes, I'll be doing an interview where I'm interviewing candidates that are looking for a job for some of my companies. I do it every single Monday at 5:30 and every Wednesday at 5:30. When I interview the candidates, we have 10 folks tonight that have applied for a job. On Wednesday, it'll probably be about the same number. The people that can't grasp the idea of showing up at 5:30 p.m. Central, I just refuse to acknowledge them as job applicants. Now, I'm not mean about it. I'm just not going to hire them. I mean, if you're late to the job interview, I'm just not even going to have that conversation. So in my office, people always compliment when they come to the Reawaken America Tour events. And by the way, June 7th and 8th is the next one. And Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, he came to my office last week. We were doing a fundraiser for him. I've never met him. I've read about him. I'm honored to meet him. I was honored to meet him. And the mayor showed up in my office and he kept complimenting. He said, your staff is so great. I love your staff, man. Your staff is great. Well, okay. James, who works here, is always on time. JT's always on time. Jordan's always on time. I'm throwing out names because they're real people behind me. You might see them walk around in the background sometimes, but they're real people. And I just refuse to be around people that don't understand the idea of being on time, letting your yes be your yes, let your no be your no. It says in the Bible, you're supposed to work as unto the Lord, not as unto human masters. That's in Colossians. Proverbs 10:4 said, God blesses the hand of the diligent and punishes the slackard. But under this perverse system, they want to flip it so that God will punish. In their mind, they want their AI God or their AI system to punish the diligent and to reward the slacker. That's the world they want to create. And so because the Bible tells us that a diligent man will stand before kings, people always ask me, Clay, how did you meet all these people? They always say, how did you meet Eric Trump or General Flynn or Kash Patel or whatever? And I always tell them, I'm just a very consistently hardworking and organized person. And when you do that, I wake up every morning, my alarm goes off at 3 a.m. Every single morning, I wake up at 3. Why do I wake up at 3? It's because I have stuff I want to do. So it's not that I'm a genius. I just have the self-discipline needed to go to bed at 9 and wake up at 3. And I do it every day. And if you do it every single day over time in the different businesses I've built, which they're documented at thrivetimeshow.com, people start to say, you know what? Clay Clark is not perfect. He might not be the most accurate or the most intelligent or the most beautiful man we know, but he's consistent and we can count on that. And so people gravitate towards consistency, whether it's buying a sandwich, filling your car up with gas, or in the friends you choose. People want consistent people in their life. And so that's how I grapple with it. Now, when I go outside of my bubble that I've created with my companies and my employees, it is crazy out there.
Hey, you touched on waking up early in the morning and having that constant drive to wake up and get your day going. And that's something that I hear people struggle with a lot.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to, is it simply having goals, having a big goal, and then setting little goals along the way in order to have those small wins, have those small accomplishments, ultimately leading to one big accomplishment? And is that one, because that's kind of my advice to folks is, hey, look, how do you wake up every day ready to hit the ground running? It's knowing that you can accomplish one of those bullet point goals today. And if you accomplish 10, 15, 20 bullet point goals over the course of whatever, 60, 90 days, you've got one huge task checked off. What's your advice to people who are struggling to light that fire under their butt to keep going?
Well, this is my to-do list for today.
Love it.
So the items that are in red are done. The items with the little red dot by them I'm working on. So red dot here at the top. I'm taking my son for his birthday on a little trip. And so I want to nail that down today. Very important I get that nailed down today. Second dot is Peter McCullough. I want to make sure I confirm his speaking time at the Reawaken America Tour in Detroit, Michigan on June 7th and 8th. And again, those tickets are at timetofreeamerica.com. A quick note, folks, we are just under 500 tickets remaining now. So if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, you can see those tickets. So that's on my list today. So those are like things that I need to get done today that I deem to be important. Now, underneath that, I need to optimize a Google map for one of my clients. These are tedious things. I need to finish, can you believe it? The sixth round of edits for my new book. I wrote a new book on dog training, actually. It's my 34th book I've written, and I'm finishing that up right now. And you know how you edit a good book, folks? You have to write the book, step one. Step two, you edit the book over and over and over until it can't, you basically try to make it perfect until it's, so you try to perfect it until it's perfect. You just over and over and over and over. And when you've read the same 200 pages of content that you've written for the sixth time, is that exciting? No, it's not exciting. But is the reward you get at the end exciting? Yes, it is. So I always tell people this. I always tell people, the way you look at procrastination and success is it's like this. The giant that we all face is inaction.
Yeah.
And inspiration is the reward. And action is the sword. Let me try it again. So the big giant we face is called inaction. And then the actual reward you get is inspiration. You will not feel inspired until you do it. So again, this idea of inspiration is the reward. Inaction is the giant, and action is the sword. And I talk about that all the time in my office because if you're waiting to be inspired to do something, you'll never do it. So another example is if your listeners go to gibsongo.com/Navarro, one of my longtime friends, Peter Navarro, this is the guy who authored The Trump Economy, deregulation, tough negotiation with China, deregulation. I talked to him on December 23rd. And he told me he needed to raise roughly $1 million to cover his current legal bills. This is a guy who's in prison right now, by the way. This is the author of The Trump Economy. And I gave him my word. I said, sir, I will not stop raising money until we get to your goal. And so for anybody who follows me on X or Rumble or Truth, you'll see I'm very consistent posting about Peter Navarro. And so far, we've raised $1.3 million.
Is this it right here?
Oh, yeah. Yep, 23,159 people have given. Look at this. Just scroll down. Bobby G just came in there with a $50 donation. Anonymous donor, $10. Anonymous donor, $50. And so every day I just wake up every day. And my goal is to try to raise $1,000 every single day for Peter Navarro. That's my goal every day. Now, some days we do more. Some days we do less. But every day I try to make sure I do it consistently. So again, my response is how do you get yourself fired up? You got to set yourself a big, hairy, audacious goal. You got to set yourself a goal. So my goal is to help my good friend Peter Navarro. So you set a goal that's exciting. Now, to quote Donald J. Trump, if you're going to be thinking, you might as well set big goals, right? President Trump talks about that often. If we go back to the President Trump, the President Trump of entrepreneurship, that a lot of people even forget that President Trump ever existed. But Donald J. Trump, he used to have multiple books he wrote about success. And one of the things he said is, he says that if you're going to set goals, you might as well set big goals because if you're going to set a goal, you might as well set a big goal. And I think that's a big idea. I want to get the actual quote right here. But President Trump, I remember that as a young guy, I was building my company, djconnection.com, and I was building that business. And it was a thing where like I had not ever, achieved success. I had never built a big company. This was my first company called djconnection.com. And I remember Trump talking about how if you're going to set a goal, you might as well set a big goal. And I remember just thinking, that's so simple, but I should probably do that. And so I would just say, if you're listening out there today and you have any small goals, that's probably part of the problem. You've got to set big goals.
Yeah, 10x them. 10x your goal. Take your goal and then 10x them. I love it. Hey, Clay, you brought up Trump, and I was actually going to ask you a question about Trump anyway, so perfect little segue. 2024 election, man. What are you seeing? Is Biden going to be the guy that ends up? I mean, at this point, personally, I think they're stuck with him. I don't see them pulling him out. Maybe. Yeah. What's your opinion on that? And also, today started jury selection with the Hush Money case. So, yeah.
Okay, so first off, I want to make sure I get this quote right. This is Donald J. Trump, The Art of the Deal. I just struggle with memorizing quotes, but here we go. It says here, this is President Trump just concluding that thought. It says, I like thinking big. I always have. To me, it's very simple. If you're going to be thinking anyway, you might as well think big. Most people think small because most people are afraid of success, afraid of making decisions, afraid of winning. And that gives people like me a great advantage. That's Donald J. Trump. So I think it's important to set big goals so everybody can analyze that. That's from the book called The Art of the Deal. Now, back to Trump right now. Yeah. Eric Trump is a very good friend of mine. And I know President Trump, shaking his hand, been in the same room with him, but I'm not in his inner circle. General Flynn is a good friend of mine. I consider Don Jr., some of these, Peter Navarro, some of these people to be, friends or in that group. And all I could say is all of that inner circle, President Trump's inner circle, they are 100% rallied around him right now. Okay. Just to state the obvious, but I think people need to know that everybody's rallied around him. They're burning the bridges of retreat right now. They're burning the bridges of retreat. Another way to motivate yourself, by the way, burn the bridges of retreat. Okay. Now, the American population, I think the American population is sort of burning its bridges of retreat. I think a lot of people right now are saying, wow, if we don't save this nation, that post I just made on social media might get me fired. Wow. Yep. If we don't save this nation, I might lose my career over my decision to push back against this wokeness. So a lot of Americans have sort of burned their bridge of retreat. So that being said, the Democrats, the globalists is probably what I call them. They have burned their bridges of retreat. Their plan is to put President Donald J. Trump in prison. That's their plan.
Yeah, this whole case, and I don't have any legal expertise. It's certainly hard to follow how New York is trying to. It seems to be a federal law that they're going after, but the federal court didn't even indict him on it. It's over my head a little bit. I just like to get online and talk about politics. But as far as the details of how they're pulling this thing off, it seems like anything's possible in New York these days. Do you think people should be worried, concerned? Is in Clay Clark's mind, is there any chance of him being pulled out of this election? What are you thinking?
Well, what I see is that they're going to try to put President Donald J. Trump in prison. That's what I see. Now, that's not what I want to happen, but see that is the plan. And the reason why I say that is because when you listen to people like Yuval Noah Harari, and you listen to people like Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates running around talking about their RNA modifying nanotechnology agenda, when they talk about that we won't own anything by the year 2030, when you hear about Agenda 2030, when you hear these people talk openly, I mean, you see Yuval Noah Harari, he now calls humans hackable animals. He says we're beginning to get to the end of human history. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is what Yuval Noah Harari is doing. So when you see people like that say that, the only thing in the way of them implementing that agenda is President Donald J. Trump and the American people. And so I believe that is the plan that they have. And they have to try to put President Trump in jail to stop it. So just to let you know the nefariousness, my good friend Eric Trump just tweeted out a few minutes ago. Your listeners can go check it out. That's Eric Trump on X. I'm sure he put it out on Truth as well, but he posted this. He says here, again, he's referring to his brother. He says, Judge Merchant is truly heartless in not letting a father attend his son's graduation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or a better way to look at it is Judge Merchant is truly heartless in not letting my dad attend my brother's graduation. I mean, that's basically what Eric Trump is communicating.
We've got about 5 minutes left. I'd love to end with this specific topic, and just to give it some reference for all of the viewers. This is exactly what Clay is referring to. This was Donald Trump earlier this afternoon. You can't hear the audio, can you? Here you go.
I cannot.
All right, now you can.
Thank you very much. We had some amazing things happen today. As you know, my son is graduating from high school, and it looks like the judge will not let me go to the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student. I'm very proud that he did so well. I was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judges are going to allow me to escape this scam trial. If you read all of the legal pundits, all of the legal scholars today, there's not one that I think.
It's about a 2-minute clip, but the first 40 seconds there explains it pretty well. Judge not even going to allow Donald Trump to attend his son's high school graduation. So these are evil people intending on making his life hell and intending to put him behind bars, at least attempting to. And I think there's a lot of power in prayer, Clay. You know, I've learned that through attending some of your events, man. And at this point, I've been encouraging people to be loud, vocal, and of course, not commit any crimes or violence, but also pray. And hopefully we'll get this country back, and Donald Trump will end up our president in November.
I agree. And I encourage everybody out there, again, as far as calls to action that you can do today. One is if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com. If you go there, you can right now, you can request tickets for the Reawaken America Tour, Detroit, Michigan, June 7th and 8th. You got Rudy Giuliani, you got General Flynn, you got Eric Trump, you got Kash Patel, Laura Trump. Really is an all-star lineup of Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Stella Emanuel, Dr. Richard Bartlett, Detroit, Michigan, June 7th and 8th. And then finally, for people out there that don't know, since 2005, I've been hosting a business workshop every 2 months for 19 consecutive years. And Tim Tebow, the legendary football player, he is joining me at my business conference on June 27th and 28th. So for all the business owners there, and we have 70 tickets remaining for the business conference, and that's at my office in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So if you're out there today and you want to grow a business to create time freedom and financial freedom for yourself, you can learn more about that by going to thrivetimeshow.com, thrivetimeshow.com.
thrivetimeshow.com website right here, guys. Check it out. You can find it easily by checking out Clay's Twitter as well. The website is in the bio. Clay, I really appreciate you coming on the show again this afternoon, this evening. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, man. I learn a lot from you every time we talk, and I know that viewers take away a lot of value and learn a lot from you as well. So from one patriot to another, man, I know you'll never stop, but please never stop. Keep going, because you inspire guys like me every day to keep going, and I'm sure many others as well.
Well, I'll tell you this. I told Eric Trump and General Flynn I'm committed to doing everything I can possibly do to get him back in office. So if they want me to do one more event, I'm honored to do it. It's kind of a thing where, just like you, I wake up every day asking God how he can use my time, treasure, and talents to save this nation. And I encourage every listener out there to do that as well, because God wants to use every single person watching this show. There is nobody out there that's more important. God created every single person out there. So again, just be asking God today, folks, how he can use your time, treasure, and talents to save this nation.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching another episode of Live with Chris's World here on Monday, April 15th with Clay Clark. Clay, thank you very much for joining me again, sir.
Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.